Today we're going to learn how to install a virtual machine using Microsoft's Hyper-V. Now Hyper-V is included in Windows 10. It's also included in many enterprise level server products, but it comes with Windows 10, but you do have to install it. So you go to Control Panel, you go to Programs and Features, turn Windows features on or off, and you'll see Hyper-V right here. Check that. You want to expand it because sometimes one of these might be grayed out. If it's grayed out, then that means that your computer doesn't support virtualization. However, mine does. Haha. So we'll go ahead and install it. And it really only takes a moment. Once it's installed though, we'll have to do a restart. I'm going to select don't restart right now, but we will restart and then we'll pick up the video again. So we've just come back from a reboot and Hyper-V is installed. To access it, all you have to do is click on your start menu. What I like to do is start typing Hyper, and then I will pin it to my start menu. That way, when I go to look for it, boom, there it is. So here it's pretty blank. There's no virtual machines. It's easy enough to rectify. We just go New Virtual Machine. And here we'll begin to basically build out a virtual machine step by step, assigning it its hardware. And let's go through the process, see how this goes. So we'll just click on Next. We can give it a name. Usually what I do is I give it a name based on the operating system. You don't have to do that. I also work on Hyper-V in a enterprise environment, and obviously the servers that I create there are named differently. But for today we'll just call this Win 10 because we're going to install Windows 10 on it. It asks us whether we want to store the machine in a different location. I usually do. I don't like to store these files on my C drive just because they can get kind of large. So I have a second hard drive that I usually install them to. If all you have is your C drive, by all means use it. The defaults are great. I'm just going to browse to the location that I use for Hyper-V. I'm actually going to call this one Windows 10. There we go. And here you get to specify the generation of the virtual machine. Generation 1, Generation 2. Now obviously Generation 2 has some support for UE5 firmware, 64-bit guest operating systems, but Generation 1 can also do 64-bit operating systems. If you're not sure what to check off here, just use Generation 1, it'll usually work. Dynamic memory. So you're going to set up how much RAM you want. I'm going to pick 4 gig, but when it says dynamic, what that means is it won't allot all 4 gig to it right away. It'll only allot what it needs up to 4 gig. You want to make sure that you do enable your network connection, otherwise it'll be isolated. Basically, you can create a virtual machine with no network or internet connection. But if you do want it, you'll have to make sure this is your default switch. Here we get to create a virtual hard drive. If we're building out this machine for an existing virtual hard drive, so we've already created a virtual machine before, we just have to go through the process again and attach a hard drive to it, we could use this. But what we're going to do here is we're just going to create a new hard drive, and it'll default to this location that I specified earlier. We get to set the parameters. 127 is fine for this. Install an operating system. Well, yes, we want to do that. I have an image file. I have an ISO file that I downloaded from the Microsoft website. So Windows 10 ISO. And we just finish. So that's really all there is to creating a virtual machine. We double click on it, basically opening the monitor, click on start. This will start the virtual machine and we'll get to see Windows 10 starting to boot up. And so here's the Windows 10 setup. Pretty boring stuff. I have a video on this already if you want to have a look at how to install Windows 10. But for today, that's how we create a virtual machine on Hyper-V. Notice that we have the icons at the top here where we're able to turn it off, shut down. Those are very different. Turn off is like hitting the power button. Shut down is more of a graceful. And then we have this button where we can save the state, or we can pause the machine if we want to come back to it later and have it exactly where it was when we left off. For today, I'm just going to turn this puppy off. And there we go.